Joining me now for more on what comes next after this tragedy in Uvalde is Shannon Watts, founder of Moms Demand Action, and Abby Clements, a former teacher at Sandy Hook Elementary and co-founder of Teachers Unify to End Gun Violence. Thank you both for being here. Abby, this fight obviously personal for you as a former Sandy Hook teacher. And I wonder what you're hearing from lawmakers, what you're hearing from activists about the chances for reforms after this latest tragedy. Do you share Ruben Gallego's pessimism? Some would say realism. Or do you think Chris Murphy may be right? At least he is cautiously optimistic.
Look, who I'm hearing from, they're teachers, parents, my former students, young people. We are outraged, and we have to demand that change happen. We're not going to wait around. We are organizing. We have teachers from every state who have joined Teachers Unify, and we are not going to accept that our schools have become unsafe working conditions for educators and students and school staff.
You know, it's interesting, Shannon, she uses the word demand. You obviously were one of the Americans who grieved the loss of innocent children in Newtown, and Moms Demand Action was born. And I've been thinking over the last week or so about MADD, Mothers Against Drunk Driving. They changed a culture about the way we think about what is acceptable and what is not acceptable. And I wonder if you can help us to understand the difference between action immediately and the very real idea that this is a process where there is a cultural shift that needs to happen.
That is exactly right. You know, when I started doing this work a decade ago as a full-time volunteer, I thought it would take weeks, maybe months, to change the federal gun laws. What I realized very quickly is that Congress is really where this work ends. It's not where it begins. I know we all want wholesale change overnight. Unfortunately, that isn't the way the system is set up. It's set up for incremental change. That's what leads to revolutions. And you really do have to show up at every single gun bill hearing in your state, at your city councils, at your state houses, at your school boards. You have to get off the sidelines and get involved. And if you want to do that, you can text the word ACT to 64433. We will immediately plug you in where you live. But I'm always hopeful as an activist that we will have that cathartic moment in Congress we're all waiting for. But even if it doesn't happen, elections are in 160 days, and we will have to hold these lawmakers accountable for not acting. You know, Alice Walker said that activism is the rent we pay to live on the planet. None of us, in the wake of these horrific recent shooting tragedies in this country, can afford to sit on the sidelines, because if it hasn't come to your community yet, I promise you it will.
Abby, I wonder what the conversations are like among teachers this week. I mean, normally they would be focused on wrapping up the school year, but now they have to look ahead. I mean, first of all, they have to deal with the reality of kids wherever they are, who are aware, obviously, of what has happened. But how do faculty and staff, and not just in Uvalde, come back from summer break, make their students feel safe after how this school year ended? Tell me about those conversations.
Teachers around the country are sad. We're terrified. We're outraged. After the news of Uvalde, my colleagues in Newtown, we were crying in the hallways. We had to run to the bathroom to get ourselves together before class. I had the honor of speaking along with many educators and activists a few days ago in Houston, where we gathered with the two largest teachers organizations, the NEA and the AFT, and the palpable passion and fear and outrage was just resonating in the room. People are fed up and are going to organize, and we're not used to seeing teachers in that way, but we're doing it, and I don't think anybody should be complacent, like Shannon said. I mean, people are afraid for their children. People are afraid for their neighbors. Where can you go that's safe? I heard President Biden talking in his speech earlier about freedoms, about the freedom to live. Gun violence is the leading cause of death for our children. Something must be done, and we're going to keep fighting, whether this is a long game or whether something will miraculously happen in Congress. But we have to keep talking about this. Don't be afraid to tell your story. Don't be afraid to talk about the teachers you're worried for, your children you're concerned about. We have to keep that conversation going. You're not alone in your fear and outrage.
Abby Clements, Shannon Watts, two women who have taken action and are inspiring others to do the same. Thank you so much for being with us on this Memorial Day. We appreciate you.